Alright, so our last few lessons we were going over what the names of these keys or these notes on the keyboard were. Let's go ahead and fill this in just because it's good practice. We have B, C, D, E, F, G, and A. In our very last lesson we gave names to these black keys right here. Now we said that these notes right here with no kind of sharps or flats on them are called natural notes. Well, then we added these notes over here, and we said that they could have two different names, like F sharp right here or G flat. They could have two different names, but they're still the same key on the keyboard. And we said notes like that are called enharmonic notes. That means they're enharmonic with each other, or they are enharmonic. And for right now, we can just use either one of these notes. Like right here, we can use a C flat or a D flat. We can call it either one. Later on, when we get into more theory, though, we have to call the notes by certain names, just because that's just how theory works. Now, so we have all these keys on our keyboard. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have these 12 notes. We also said that we can keep going on here. If there's another key, that'd be an F. We can keep going on right here as long as we had more notes on the keyboard, and we'd be going up octaves, basically. So we had a C right here, a C right here. To the very next C would be another octave, and then so on and so forth. We'll get into more octaves probably in our next lesson. Well, now that we have all of our keys and we know the names of the notes that we can use, we have to find some way to notate them so we can communicate with other musicians. And that's where this thing right here, the musical staff, comes along right here. And we kind of hinted at this before, but this is basically the musical staff. And we said that it was just like any kind of other graph. We kind of have our X and Y axis. And we have time going this way, pitch going up and down. Right, so a note right here is higher in pitch than a note right here. And a note over here comes before a note over here, right? So let's go ahead and expand on this idea of the musical staff a little bit. Now this thing right here is called the treble clef. The treble clef, okay? Now, basically what this does is this tells us what section of the staff we are working with. Because in theory, this little staff right here, actually let's go up a little bit. In theory, this staff right here could go on, so we have our 5 lines, or we have our staff right here. It could go on higher or lower. You can just go on forever because you can keep getting lower notes, and you can keep getting higher notes right here. But we typically use five lines and 4 spaces at a time. That way, it's basically just to save paper and make it easier to read. So what we have here is we have our treble clef. Let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit. Oops. We have our treble clef right here. Now this is basically just telling us which 5 lines we're using in the staff, and we said the staff could pretty much go on for infinite longer, higher and higher and lower and lower. But we use 5 lines, typically use 5 lines at a time to save space. Now this treble clef right here tells us that this note right here, another color, is circling the note G4 on a keyboard, okay? Now, for right now, this number right here tells what octave it is. For right now, we're not going to worry about the octave. So we're just going to say that note right there, this line right here, that it's circling right here, is the G note, okay? Now we can call that the G note. We can also say that It's a G right here on a keyboard, right? So this line right here, if there is a note on this line right here, that means you play that G right there. That's simple enough, right? And that's basically what the clefs tell us is this on the staff tell us which notes to read, right? Now, there's a lot of people that tell you little sayings that you can say to yourself, like you can say to memorize the spaces, it's F-A-C-E, face. And then they'll tell you, then someone teaching theory will also say, and you can remember the lines by saying, every good boy deserves fudge. Now people say that you can remember the notes on this treble clef that way, but honestly that is not a very good way to remember it. When you have to start reading music faster, it just takes too much time to remember that. So don't even think about every good boy deserves fudge or F-A-C-E. Don't even think about that at all. The best way to remember which notes these are is you take this line right here, and we said this line right here is our G note, and each line or space is the very next note on the keyboard. So we have a G right here on this line, and the space right here is an A. The very next white key. I'm sorry, next white key. And after A, so this is the A line. Then we have our B or A space. This is our B line right here. We have our C space right here. C, next white key. And then we have our D line right here. Our E space. And then our F line right here, and that would be right here. So what you can see is this is kind of a mess right now. What you can see though is just our musical alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and the next note or the next line or space is just the next space or just the next white key on a keyboard. So that's the easiest way to remember that. And this is the treble clef, or also called the G clef, because this little circle right here circles the G note. Now let's go ahead and look at the bass clef real quick. Now this is the bass clef, also called the left clef, because, or the not the left clef, the F clef, because these two little dots right here circle the F note. Now this is very similar to the treble clef. Now, the very next line or space is the next note, or next white key on our keyboard. So if we say at this line right here, this is the F line, which is this key on our keyboard. We can say at this space right here, which is the very next key, this key right here, is the G note, G space, right? Because that's G on our keyboard. And we can go up. If this is G, this space is G. This next line right here has to be A, because A is our next white key on our keyboard. Now you can go backwards to, you can say it, since this line right here is F, then going down one key, let's draw another key right here, which are, this is an F, and this is an E. That's a poorly drawn E. This is the E, right? So you don't have to worry about remembering every good boy deserves fudge or anything like that. Just remember that the bass clef right here, the bass clef or the F clef, these little two dots right here circle are around the F line, and right up here on our treble clef, this little thing right here, our treble clef circles the G line. Okay, we're going to go a little bit more in depth on our next lesson.